We have breaking news here on the Commanders Report as the Washington Commanders are quote-unquote parting ways with offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and are firing defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. Today on the show, I'm going to give you my instant reaction to these moves and then get a little bit of a jump start here on the new coordinator searches here in Washington in 2026. Now, before we get into the content today, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because this is why you click that subscribe button. Every time the Commanders make a move this offseason, right? Obviously, we're going to have 2 coordinator hires. We're going to have an overhaul on the roster. I mean, we're going to have pretty much a brand new roster next year, and there's going to be a lot of moves that need to be made by GM Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn. We're going to be covering all of it here on the Commanders Report. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. If you love the burgundy and gold, you want to join us for our offseason coverage this year. All right, so we'll start with the report that came in from ESPN's Adam Schefter just moments ago, saying sources, Commanders offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury is leaving the organization to pursue other opportunities. Kingsbury and head coach Dan Quinn met today and agreed to mutually part ways. Then also JP Finley from NBC Sports Washington reported this as well. Commander's source, Dan Quinn, met with Kliff Kingsbury today to discuss the future of the offense. After those conversations, we have mutually parted ways. Additionally, we have moved on from DC Joe Whitt Jr. So it seemed like, whatever happened in that conversation today between Kliff and DQ, and it actually sounded like Coach Quinn was actually open to Kliff returning potentially next year. But I think that this is a mistake for the Washington Commanders, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I know this was a frustrating year and people want heads to roll and all these different things because the expectations were so high. But I think Kliff is a pretty decent fit for Jayden Daniels in particular. And I think, after this season, which was disappointing, right? Like, this was not a good statistical season for the Washington Commanders. But when you take into account all the injuries that they had, like being top 5 in red zone percentage, being top 12 in rushing EPA per play, being around league average in EPA per play overall, obviously it wasn't the season that you wanted statistically on offense, but like how many offensive coordinators legitimately would have thrived in Washington this year? I just don't think there's many OCs out there that would have, had a great season with Jayden Daniels missing 10 games this year. Austin Eckler, your number 1 running back heading into the year, missing pretty much the entire season. Pretty much one of your starting wide receivers, Noah Brown, nearly missing the entire season. Sam Cosmi missing half the season, as well as Luke McCaffrey and Terry McLaurin. I mean, which OCs in the NFL, guys, could have taken injuries to Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin on this roster and thrived and done better than what Kliff Kingsbury did statistically this year? You also missed Zach Ertz for the final stretch of the season, Laramie Tunsil for the final stretch of the season as well. Like, there was a ton of injuries on this Washington Commanders team, and that doesn't excuse everything. And there were certainly moments where Kliff, in my opinion, didn't have great games as a play caller or what have you, but I don't think he had a whole lot to work with this year, to be quite frank with you. And when I look at last year's offensive numbers, when this team was healthier and they had a fully healthy Jayden Daniels and Terry McLaurin the entire season, they were top 10 in every single offensive category. This guy was one of the top names in the coaching search last year and decided to come back to Washington because of the prospects that this offense had. So it just goes to show you guys that the NFL is a crazy business. It can turn on a dime from year to year. You can go from one of the hottest offensive names in the league to fired in the span of 1 year. And all it takes is missing your quarterback for 10 games, apparently, and missing your number 1 receiver for 7 games, and still getting your team to about league average in most offensive categories. I actually think this year, you can make an argument, was actually a pretty impressive performance from Kliff Kingsbury as OC. And my best guess is that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters want to do a philosophy change on offense. I think they're looking at this heavy spread, almost air raid style of offense that Kliff Kingsbury ran, I should say, now here in Washington, and they want to go with more of a under center, Kyle Shanahan, play action, heavy style offense that, to be fair, is dominating the modern NFL. Most of the top offenses in the league run that under center, play action heavy, run game focused type of ball. But like, this team was a top 10 offense, arguably a top 5 offense just a season ago when they were healthier with Kliff Kingsbury's scheme. So I get that, DQ had his most successful years in his head coaching career with Kyle Shanahan as his OC, and I get that Adam Peters obviously had a lot of success in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan calling offensive plays in San Francisco. But personally, man, I think that this is a mistake, and this is the type of decision where if you make the wrong offensive coordinator hire and then Kliff has success elsewhere, which I think he has a pretty decent chance of doing, this is the type of decision that gets you fired as a head coach in Dan Quinn here. So coming up next, what will Dan Quinn be looking for in his upcoming searches for not only offensive coordinator but also defensive coordinator? We're going to spend the second half of our show today getting a kick started here with the OC and DC search here in Washington. But what say you guys? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Do you like this decision to part ways with Kliff Kingsbury? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Just a second here. We're going to have a word from our sponsor here while we talk about our sponsor today. Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments. With that, if you guys want a Jayden Daniels jersey, you guys can go chatsports.com/Daniels. We've got all the different colorways, officially licensed gear by the National Football League, by the way. So whether you want the Super Bowl era alternates, the black alternates, or either the regular homes or the aways, we've got every single jersey and every single colorway that you could think of. And personally, guys, I think Jayden Daniels will be the next quarterback here in Washington to hoist a Lombardi trophy, or at least knock on wood, I hope he is. This fan base certainly deserves that. But, I look at Jayden Daniels, and no matter who is going to be calling the plays offensively moving forward here in Washington, Jayden is certainly going to be the quarterback. And I think that this is a jersey that if you guys make this investment here, you guys can wear this jersey for the rest of your lives. I think Jayden Daniels, when it's all said and done, might be the greatest Washington Commander player of all time. So to have this jersey, support the show, support the team, support the channel, go chatsports.com/Daniels. If you click that link and you make a purchase, part of the proceeds go back to us here at the Commanders Report. So it helps out the channel. You guys get a new jersey. Everybody wins. Go chatsports.com/Daniels to make it happen today. In terms of the offensive coordinator search, as I discussed, I think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn want a Shanahan-style offense here in Washington, and I think probably how it probably went with the discussion with Kliff is Dan Quinn was like, listen, man, we want to go more under center. We want to do some of the things that, the Kyle Shanahans of the world and the Mike McDanielses and all these different under center offenses are doing. Are you down with that? And essentially Kliff Kingsbury said, no, I'm not down with that. I don't want to do that. I want to run my style of offense, and I'm not changing philosophies. So they mutually agreed to part ways. So, if they are switching offensive philosophies, which is really the only thing that makes sense to me, I think it's going to be somebody from the Shanahan tree, potentially the McVay tree as well, because that's kind of the same family there. Here are some of the names to watch. Now, Chip Kelly is not in the Shanahan and McVay tree, but he is somebody that was one of the finalists to get the OC job a couple years ago. Of course, they ended up hiring Kliff Kingsbury instead, but Kelly was really, really close to getting the job a couple years ago before he took the Ohio State job. So, keep that in mind. He's now taken the job at Northwestern as the new OC there. So keep that in mind as well. He just took a job, so maybe he won't be in consideration. But there's a lot of really exciting and potential hires in the Shanahan-McVay tree. Obviously it's one of the better coaching trees in the National Football League, maybe the number one and most sought after coaching tree in football right now. And, he's certainly got connections to guys like Clay Kubiak in San Francisco, Brian Greasy, Chris Forster, all those guys. I know Adam Peters has connections to all of those people. Frank Smith, who worked with Mike McDaniel, who is close with Dan Quinn. Same thing goes for Darrell Bevel. The Miami Dolphins quarterbacks coach Mike LaFleur might be looking for a chance to call plays somewhere. He's currently the OC in LA, but he doesn't call plays for the Rams. Zach Robinson, another guy that was a really big name and a big OC hire a couple years ago. Of course, Raheem Morris and that regime in Atlanta is no more. Drew Petzing, another guy that's now a free agent because Jonathan Gannon just got fired. So, there's a bunch of names here that are from the McVay or Shanahan tree that run the style of offense that the Commanders want to run. Also, Grant Udinski, really young offensive coordinator for the Jags, a former coach for the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell as well, could be a big name to watch. But for me, guys, I think the name to keep your eye on here is Darrell Bevel, okay? Because Bevel has been the QB coach for Miami for many years, so he's been kind of gone to the Mike McDaniel's school of Shanahan-style offense. And, Bevel and Dan Quinn worked together in their Seattle days. They won a Super Bowl together, actually. So, this is a connection that makes sense. He runs the style of offense, the new school Shanahan stuff that Washington probably wants. He also has experience working not only with young quarterbacks, but also with mobile quarterbacks. He was the OC in Seattle with Russell Wilson for many years, so he knows how to use a quarterback like Jayden Daniels that can, make plays out of structure and run with the football, all those different things. This one just makes a lot of sense to me, and he's got a ton of play calling experience. He's a Super Bowl winning offensive play caller, so I think that this is one that makes a lot of sense, and keep your eye on Darrell Bevell in the weeks to come. But my question, guys, is if they are going to be switching to a heavy under center play action style offense, in the ilk and in the vein of a Kyle Shanahan style system, how does Jayden Daniels adjust to that new scheme? Because part of the reason why they got Kliff Kingsbury in the first place is because he's coached both at the pro level and at the college level, and he understands how to make it easy on a quarterback that's used to a lot of shotgun and a lot of pistol in college and a lot of spread stuff, and make the transition easier to the league. Now, he's had 2 years, I'm talking about Jayden now, he's had 2 years in that style of offense here in the pros, and now you're going to be asking him to make that pretty big jump to going from heavy shotgun, taking snaps from the pistol or the shotgun, and now taking a lot of snaps under center with his back to the defense a lot of the times on those play action. That is a big transition, man. And in a year where I'm guessing the Commanders are really going to be pushing to be competitive next year, there might be some growing pains for Jayden Daniels in this new system, which worries me. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring back Kliff, have that continuity in a system that really fits the skill set of Jayden Daniels. But unfortunately, Kliff has decided to mutually part ways with the team, and now we're on the hunt for our next OC here in Washington. So do you have any early guesses as to who the next offensive coordinator for the Commanders is going to be? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. My best guess right now would be Darrell Bevell, but there's a number of names that could be in consideration. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down there in the comments. Now let's move on from offensive coordinator to defensive coordinator. And I think that this is the one that we all knew was going to happen for sure. Joe Whitt Jr. got demoted from his play calling duties in the middle of the season. This one, the writing was on the wall, and it's absolutely the right decision. But this is the one where there's a little bit more ambiguity here because there's not as many, heavy ties, in my opinion, to this side of the ball when it comes to Dan Quinn. Now, Raheem Morris, very close with Dan Quinn, former DC for Quinn back in Atlanta, is now available. He just got fired by the Falcons, so that could be a name that makes a lot of sense. Gus Bradley, of course, worked with Dan Quinn in Seattle. He's currently the assistant head coach in San Francisco, but he doesn't have any defensive play calling responsibilities or anything like that. That could be a fit. Of course, those guys were responsible for building the Legion of Boom together. Al Harris is the pass game coordinator under defensive coordinator Dennis Allen there in Chicago. Good friends with Dan Quinn, so that's definitely one to keep your eye on. And then Jeff Ulbrich, who might be, let's say Raheem Morris goes back to the Los Angeles Rams, or maybe he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers to work for his good friend Mike Tomlin. Jeff Ulbrich could be somebody that Morris recommends to Dan Quinn because, of course, he was the DC in Atlanta this year and actually did an okay job. He helped develop Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. especially. They're 2 first-round picks at the edge rusher position, and that's going to be a position of need for the Commanders heading into future seasons. So these are 4 names to keep your eye on. I'm sure there will be lots of reporting as to who's being connected to this job. We'll keep you updated on the search. But personally, I would love to bring in Raheem Morris. He would be my number one choice because he runs a defensive style here with lots of quarters and stuff like that I think can help make this Commanders defense grow a little bit. And, of course, Raheem has experience with DQ, and, he's a fantastic coach. I mean, guys like Jalen Ramsey have called Raheem Morris the greatest coach he's ever had. Players really respect Raheem Morris, and I respect him as a defensive mind. Maybe he's not a head coach, but I think he's a damn good coordinator. He brings the energy, and, Dan Quinn loves guys that bring the energy, so I think Morris would be the ideal DC candidate right now. But let me know your guys' thoughts down there in the comments section, and hit me again here with your prediction for who the next defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders will be heading into 2026. All right, that'll be it for our breaking news edition here of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Probably in the days to come, we'll have full offensive and defensive coordinator target videos. Of course, this is going to be dominating the Commanders news cycle for the next couple of weeks, and we're going to keep you guys updated on everything. And, of course, when they make hires, we'll get you guys breaking news videos when we have some new coordinators here in Washington. But that'll be it for today's show, guys. I greatly appreciate your support. Until next time, guys, go raise some hail.